Ringo Starr was born Richard Starkey on July 7, 1940, in Liverpool, England. He was an only child, and while his mother doted on him, his father lost interest in family life early on. His parents split up when Starkey was only 4, and he never saw much of his father after that. His mother worked as a cleaning woman and then a barmaid to support them. At age 6, Starkey had an appendectomy and then contracted peritonitis, forcing him to live at a local children's hospital for 12 months while he recovered. This put him considerably behind in school, but just as he caught up, he was diagnosed with tuberculosis, and spent the next 2 years in a sanatorium. One of the ways the staff tried to distract and occupy their patients was to have them form a band, and it was here where young Starkey first discovered percussion, using a wooden mallet to strike the cabinets next to his bed. From then on, despite musical talent with other instruments, he was a drummer. In 1953, his mother remarried, and his new stepfather encouraged his interest in music. By 1955, when he returned from the sanatorium, school wasn't much of an option anymore as he was too far behind. He tried a series of different jobs, which were unrewarding professionally, but introduced him to skiffle music via one of his co-workers. Skiffle was played with household objects instead of musical instruments, and Starkey started playing regularly with a band. He got his first real drum kit for Christmas in 1957. A few years later, he joined a real band with real instruments, Rory Storm and the Hurricanes, and started going by the name Ringo Starr to reflect both the rings he wore and his interest in country and western music. His drum solos were called Star Time. The band grew in popularity, and on a tour in Hamburg, they first met the Beatles, a new group consisting of John Lennon, Paul McCartney, George Harrison, Stu Sutcliffe and Pete Best. In October of 1960, Starr played with Lennon, McCartney, and Harrison on a track backing Hurricanes singer Lou Walters. After the Beatles broke up, Starr embarked on a solo career. His first album, Sentimental Journey, in 1970, was a collection of Tin Pan Alley tunes, with arrangers including Quincy Jones, Maurice Gibb, Martin and McCartney. For his next effort, Starr went for country with Beaucoup of Blues in 1971. Starr was the one Beatle who continued to work with each of the others. He drummed on albums for Lennon as well as Yoko Ono and Harrison, and he and Harrison co-wrote the hit single It Don't Come Easy for his 1973 album Ringo. Ringo gave him 2 #1 hits in the US, and was his best-selling solo record. The key to his success, it seemed, was a combination of his charisma and a rock-solid group of collaborators. The same personality that made him the glue that held the Beatles together for so long is what drew other artists to him. The formula was a good one. Starr has been married twice, wed to Maureen Cox from 1965 to 1975. The couple had 3 children together, Zach, Jason and Lee. Zach has followed in his father's footsteps and become an accomplished drummer in his own right, playing with such bands as The Who and Oasis. When Cox died of leukemia in 1994, Starr was there at her bedside. He married his second wife Barbara Bach in 1981. Together, they struggled with alcoholism and went to rehab, with successful results, and they are still together. Starr has 7 grandchildren, and in August 2016, he became the first Beatle to become a great-grandfather. Along with the rest of the Beatles, Ringo was awarded an MBE in 1965. In 2018, he was knighted by Prince William. Along with joking that he was a bit shaky today on my own, he noted how much the honor meant to him. Ringo Starr was raised in a rough neighborhood. The Beatles all famously hailed from Liverpool, one of England's largest cities and home to large populations of regular people in the working and middle classes. But while John Lennon, Paul McCartney, and George Harrison all grew up in homes that weren't wealthy but secure, Starr's upbringing was a bit more economically unstable. He was not a barefoot, ragged child. Starr's childhood neighbor Marie Maguire Crawford said in Bob Spitz' The Beatles: A Biography, but like all of the families who lived in the Dingle, he was part of an ongoing struggle to survive. The Dingle was an especially depressed neighborhood, full of tiny, decrepit homes with poor ventilation, where the only place for kids to play was in a local park, where all the coal smoke from area chimneys hung thick in the air. Those circumstances were made all the more trying by Starr's father abandoning the family when Ringo was only 3 years old. He was hospitalized for a year. Any serious medical emergency requiring a hospital stay of any length is concerning, but it seems worse when it happens to a child. And a major health calamity happened to Ringo Starr when he was just 6 years old. In 1947, his appendix ruptured, and it developed into an internal infection called peritonitis, an inflammation of a tissue membrane that covers organs. Starr's in-hospital recovery stretched on for months. I was in a year because 6 months in, I was getting rather well. And I got excited and I fell out of bed, he told Fresh Air, and ripped open all these stitches in my stomach. That required an emergency surgery and then an additional 6 months of recovery time. Starr was laid up in a Liverpool Children's Hospital for so long that he missed a full year of school. When he got out, he caught up to his classmates with the aid of a tutor. Ringo missed out on part of Beatlemania. In 1964, Beatlemania hit big. The group's performances on The Ed Sullivan Show set viewership records. 5 Beatles songs occupied the top 5 slots on the Billboard Hot 100, and the band embarked on a world tour to play live in front of throngs of fans who screamed so loud they couldn't even hear the music. But during a London photo shoot in June 1964, Starr once again fell seriously ill. Taken to a hospital, he was diagnosed with both tonsillitis and pharyngitis and was ordered by doctors to not get out of bed. That was kind of a problem, as the Beatles' first major world tour kicked off in Denmark a day later. Starr had no choice but to literally lay back and let the band replace him with producer George Martin's first suggestion, a session drummer named Jimmy Nicol. Starr recovered after 10 days, missing tour stops in Australia and Asia, and joined the band. It was a relief for the drummer. He had a serious problem with alcohol. The breakup of the Beatles in 1970 left Starr feeling absolutely lost, as he told People, and stress over an unsteady solo career in the years after left him with a serious drinking problem that only intensified. It got progressively worse, and the blackouts got worse, and I didn't know where I'd been, what I'd done. He doesn't even remember some career highlights. I've got photographs of me playing all over the world, but I've absolutely no memory of it. I played Washington with the Beach Boys, or so they tell me, Starr told the VC reporter. In 1989, he went to court to stop the release of an album he'd recorded during an especially booze-heavy period, testifying that he was drinking as many as 16 bottles of wine each day. Starr realized he had a problem in the early 80s, but he didn't seek help for years because he felt like he was stuck professionally. He credits forming his Ringo Starr's All-Star Band and going on a tour in 1989 as one of the main factors that helped him kick alcohol for good.